but that client's not going to stick around, or you're not going to want that client to stick around. And so at the end of the day, you're probably going to lose money on that client in attrition.
I love bookkeeping.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for listening to the I Love Bookkeeping podcast. My name is Hannah Robinson.
And I'm Melissa Honan.
And thank you so much for listening. Today, we're going to be talking about something, or I should say, I'm going to be asking Melissa questions about pre-qualifying sales leads. I think this is something that's super important, especially when you're just starting out with your business. I think it's really important to narrow down who is going to be a good client for you, what's going to be a good fit, and if they fit in your niche, whether you're niching or not niching. Melissa, I have so many questions for you about this because I feel like you have so many great answers and so much great insight about pre-qualifying future clients.
Yeah, I feel like I messed up enough times, like in the desperation to close clients, that I have so much advice to give people on what not to do. The first advice is just don't be like me when I was like sales hungry and close all of the sales. You do not want to close all of the sales, guys. You don't want to do it.
Yeah. So obviously your company is niched. You work with exclusively painters. When you were first starting out, I think people who have a niche, I think automatically that adds a level of qualification for what kind of client you're going to accept. If you are niched, those of you who are listening and you work with a certain set of people, Melissa, what's a mistake that you made? And obviously you said that you were really eager to close, but how can you give us an example without giving too many details or getting in trouble? Can you give us an example of how this kind of backfires if you accept everybody as a client?
Yes, 100% yes. The first thing I can say, like before I get to that point, is that, while we do niche exclusively in painters, for whatever reason, we still get other trades businesses in our sales funnel. So, especially back in the beginning, we are bookkeeping for painters. All of our marketing is geared towards painters, and I would have an electrician or a plumber or a roofer come to me. And it was so hard. And I would not have done it myself, but we turned them away. Luckily, Daniel was always there at that time saying, no, we do not serve roofers or electricians or plumbers. We serve only painters. So just send them on their merry way. And so I think that's the biggest feedback I get from people when they're first starting is, I know that I niche in this, but I just want a client. And I have to say that, again, our saving grace was niching and sticking to that niche. And you have to fight that urge to accept clients outside of your ideal client. I will have a whole other episode on this, but I can tell you with our, venture into serving other trades, although it was, lucrative at first, it actually really did distract us from our goals. And, we're reeling that back in this year and doubling down on painters. So I think that's my biggest advice is like, even though you're new and you're desperate and you need to make money, really try to fight from accepting clients that are not your ideal clients. And then circling back to your actual question, Hannah, of like, what could go wrong? Everything. So once if you're accepting a client that's in your niche, that's like the first pre-qualification, but that shouldn't be the only pre-qualification. And this is where I learned there are so many red flags that people tell you if you ask them questions in a discovery call. And there's so many red flags that people will tell you, even if you don't ask them. And I don't know why. I think maybe because I am like a natural salesperson. It's just like my inclination to close, where like in the beginning, I just did not see these red flags. I see them now. But the biggest one that I've seen and the worst is like when a sales consultation comes to you and they've been through like however many bookkeepers, like, oh, I've got a new bookkeeper every year and they never know what they're doing. And, they just, they don't know my business and they don't know this or they don't know that. Like somebody that comes to you and like starts immediately talking shit about all of not even just one bookkeeper, all of the other bookkeepers they've ever had. And in my thought, I was like, yeah, the industry is pretty like polluted with people that don't know what they're doing. That's, it's very likely that he had a string of bookkeepers that didn't know what they were doing. But really at the end of the day, the common denominator is that client. And that's exactly that every single time I have had somebody come to me saying, I've had 3, 4, 5, 6 different bookkeepers and they're all awful. That client is awful. We just ended a relationship with one like that. And I had in the beginning told my business partner at the time, I was like, I don't want to work with that client. They decided to give them a chance and close them anyway. And that it has been a year of hell, absolute hell.
That's awful.
That needs to be a whole other episode. I could tell you all sorts of stuff.
I think having certain clients pre-qualified to be a good fit for you, it requires a level of patience. Yes. It's hard. It's hard to have that patience because I almost think of it as, imagine you're going on a first date with somebody and they're sitting here telling you about how they've had a different boyfriend or girlfriend every month in the last year and just like complaining, like think of it as a relationship, which I think is such a good analogy for almost any industry where you have clients. You have to think of it as a relationship that you're building because it really is, even though it's your business and you're dealing with finances.
It's worse. I was going to say it's worse because it has to do with my money.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing for me when it comes to business partnerships or like client relationships, because that person is directly related to my money, my well-being, the well-being of my team. And for me, it's so serious. And I don't know why it took me so long to realize the severity of it because I was just so focused on the growth so I can pay the people. And what that does is really create like a short-sighted sales funnel in a sense, like, and you have to think longevity. So yeah, you might close that client with all the red flags, but that client's not going to stick around. Or you're not going to want that client to stick around. And so at the end of the day, you're probably going to lose money on that client in attrition.
Well, so when you kind of have to go through that painful growth of, okay, I maybe accepted this client that wasn't a good fit for me. What's something that you've implemented in your marketing sales funnel that really helps you find people who are a good match for you? And that's kind of a big question.
That is. So we do have a sales questionnaire, but it just asks like just like their name, their address, their revenue, that type of a thing. I have not found a good qualification process outside of just me talking to them. And I always call it, I'm a very intuitive person. And I do this with a lot of our interviews as well for like new employees still. Like the CEO, I am not in the departments, but the department head of, the director of bookkeeping, asked me to help her with it sometimes because I'm very intuitive. And I like to, I feel like I'm very good at vibe checking people. And that's really like, there's not a good way to quantify that. I am working on that right now and how to put that down on paper. But up until recently, it is something that we had not had on paper. It was like the one process that we hadn't documented that really relied solely on me. And that's because I always knew that if I were to delegate the sales process in our company, that I would get to it at that point. But this is literally the last role in our company that I will delegate is our sales role because it's so important. And I have such high standards as to how I want it done.
Yeah. Well, and have you determined what is the best way for your company have you determined like a platform or a method that's best for your company to find clients that are a good fit?
Yes. So we work with, it really has to do, and we're going to talk about this in our next series with building relationships, but it really has to do with our relationships with people in the industry that we're in. So everywhere that our clients are, that's where we're going to go. So every business coach that specializes in our niche, for the most part, we have reached out to and talked to, and we either have a relationship or we don't for a reason. And so some of those business coaches, they definitely specialize in, some are smaller, specialize in smaller clients that want to grow. Some, specialize in like the brand new painting businesses, some the more established, bigger painting businesses. And we have our metrics that show which business coach, essentially sends us our ideal client. I'm not going to say that here, but they're my favorite. And, there are some as well that come from other avenues as well that are in the industry, but don't work specifically with a business coach. Those are the ones that I prefer to work with, are the ones that are in the industry. They're not necessarily working with a business coach because we have the most value to add to them in that sense with our financial advisory. And then what I like to do is that we will never compete with business coaches, but when they get to a place financially in their business where they are ready to grow and they would like more advisory and more business coaching, then I have a relationship where I can then recommend them to one of the, 5 different business coaches that I work with based on which I think would be best for them and their personality. So that's kind of my preference is, them coming from different avenues. Like we're in the same industry. They see us, in the different industry groups and Facebook groups and, newsletters and articles and all that kind of stuff. So we're industry adjacent.
Today's show is brought to you by Keeper, the one app to run your bookkeeping business. Keeper helps you get faster client responses with your own custom branded QuickBooks integrated client portal. Finally, you can say goodbye to those pesky spreadsheets full of uncategorized transactions. Keeper also helps you catch those embarrassing coding errors before your clients do. And with Keeper, you can generate beautiful custom reports that your clients will absolutely love to read. To find out more, go to keeper.app. That's keeper.app. Mention I Love Bookkeeping to get 20% off your first 3 months. Again, go to keeper.app to find out more. Thank you for listening.
So, and this might be kind of a thinker question, but for those of you who are listening and you find yourself maybe getting clients who aren't a great fit, or maybe your retention rate is low because you are kind of settling for those who maybe who don't want to circle back around, because at the end of the day, the whole point of pre-qualifying your clients is to make sure that your retention rate is the best that it can be. Mm-hmm. And to make sure that you are keeping that relationship, you're maintaining that relationship, but it's not just all about you. It's about if that person is a good fit for you. Melissa, what are some questions that you can ask to figure out if someone is a good fit?
Yeah, I look at this in a couple of different categories. And so like, for instance, I want to know about their business and how it currently operates. Who is involved in the business? Do they have an admin on staff? What software do they use? Are they currently on QuickBooks Online? Do they keep receipts? Do they have a tax preparer that they currently work with? Like, I like to get a good overview of like, what are they currently doing? Because that gives me an idea of, do they have their shit together or not? And then if they have their shit together, like, cool. Yeah. Like, they might be coming to me because, their bookkeeper is retiring, or, they've been doing it themselves and they want to get it off their hands. Like somebody that they have it together. Great. Like that's a green flag, right? Now the person that like doesn't have their shit together, red flag. And then for me, that breaks down into 2 categories. The one that is a hot mess, that wants to not be a hot mess. And then the hot mess that will always inevitably be a hot mess. And you can really find the difference for that by their motivation level in getting you what you need. So for instance, our second step in our sales process is a complimentary diagnostic review of their current set of books. So assuming that they have a current set of books. If they don't have a current set of books, I will usually ask them for additional information. Either way, they're going to have some level of like a homework task. And this is how you determine, if they're a hot mess that wants to get it together or a hot mess that will always be a hot mess, is if they can complete the simple task. If, I'm in a call with somebody and I'm like, okay, I want to do a complimentary diagnostic review. I need accountant access to your QuickBooks Online. I always give them the option. I say, I can walk you through how to add me as an accountant user right now on the call, or I can send you instructions via email afterwards so that you can do that on your own time. 99% of the time they pick the first option. And that's the difference for me there is like, first of all, are they ready to just get it done and do it now? Like how quickly do they get me accountant access? That is the answer to me of like, how quickly are they going to get me anything else I ask from them? So if they get me the accountant access as soon as possible, if they schedule a follow-up meeting and they show up, if they answer my emails, like if they show me like, hey, like I'm here and I'm ready to do this, then I will take that hot mess. And I have had that dozens of times. And I think I think at this point, I'm in a good place where I can tell like they're a hot mess and they're never going to be anything else. Like those are the people, they don't get you accountant access. Those are the people that don't respond to your emails. They don't show up for a meeting. You have to call them and text them and they show up 10 minutes late. Like, I don't want to work with that person. But the hot mess, that's like, they show up and they realize that they haven't done their taxes in 8 years, but they know that it's time to get it together. Like, I'm here to help you. And as an example, we just had a client like that came on board last year. And he went from like $200,000 or $300,000 a year, and he's at 1.4 million this year. Like that, like if you can imagine, like if we had just been like, oh no, he hasn't done his taxes in like 8 years. He's never kept up his books. Like he owes a bunch of back taxes. Like he's never run payroll correctly. Like we could have just told him, no way. But he was ready. Like he was ready, and he showed us he was ready. And obviously, just from his growth, like he needed that, and he needed that support. So that's always my favorite thing to do, is to kind of help those hot messes that are ready to like not become a hot mess. Sorry, I kind of went down a tangent there like I usually do.
I feel like it does take a level of commitment and enthusiasm on the client's end as well.
Yes. Yeah. Like if they're not excited about working with you, or they don't see the value in what you're doing, it's just so hard to work with those people. Like if you think about like, if this person emails me, am I going to groan? Well, shit, I don't want to work with them. And I also I think one of the biggest frustrations I see with bookkeepers, like the bookkeepers that I work with, are the clients that don't respond to them and then also don't care. We just had a client that we have sent him a monthly request for information for like the last 8 months, overdue, reminders, whatnot. And this past Thursday, he was like, hey, I got you some answers to the questions, and they were not the answers we needed. I don't know what these answers were supposed to be, but they did not give us any information. And he's like, when is this going to be up to date? Because I need to get it to my accountant so that he can file my taxes before the deadline. And for those of you that don't know, the deadline was yesterday, which is the 18th of April. So I was like, and we were closed on Friday for Good Friday. So this man was basically asking us to do 8 months worth of work in maybe 3 business hours so that he could get it to his accountant to file taxes on time. That is not our ideal client, is all I have to say. They come through. They do still come through. Like the process is not infallible. But that being said, this is a good client in the sense where we can go and say, well, we can't do that. We will do our best out of the kindness of our hearts, but this is our process moving forward. This is the time frame that this is normally can be done in. We're going to try to make an exception, but we highly recommend that you file an extension. You should have already. I don't know why your accountant has let you got this far without an extension, but okay. And he ended up doing the books himself. And that brought us to the next conundrum, which was like, hey, so we can't guarantee the quality of the books if you do them yourself. So that's going to lead to other problems. And anyway, down that rabbit hole. So anyway, the process is not infallible, and clients are still a mess sometimes. But my biggest thing, and so my biggest qualifier is this a good human being? And I think we all have I'd like to say that we can all do that vibe check, but I have met some very like non-intuitive people that have just cannot tell when people are just bad humans. At this point, I have it down. I'm getting this written so you guys can have qualifying questions to determine if they are a good human being or not. But just certain ways about how people talk to you and if they value your time and if they value the work that you're doing and if they actually care about the people that work for them. And that is like one of the biggest things, I think, is to see how a business owner treats their employees or their subcontractors. For me, is a huge indicator about whether or not I want to work with them or not. Are they going to see me as an employee, first of all, because I'm not? And then also just how they treat those people, how they talk to them or talk about them, how they pay them. I don't want to say I'm like super judgmental, but I am a little bit, especially in the world of like, yeah, like, and like the way like we work with painting contractors, right? Like, are they paying them under the table? Are they paying them legally? Are they paying them a living wage? Do they give them benefits or not? Is that because they don't believe in giving them benefits or because they don't know that they can? Can they afford it and they're just not doing it? Are they, just taking a lot of money out of the business for themselves and paying everybody minimum wage? Like there's certain things for me. And I don't, I don't want this to like get out that like, oh, she's going to judge your finances. Like I don't judge anybody that I haven't talked to and asked questions for and really dig deep into it. But at a certain point, there are indicators on like, if they don't treat other people well, they're not going to treat me well. Like what makes me different? What makes my team different? And I've seen on several instances, those people who are the people that like do not treat their own people well, that yell at my bookkeepers. And I don't do that shit. I fire them immediately. So, to save myself the problem, I'm going through like a reputation issue right now because I did let somebody go, basically because they were an asshole. Like just 100%. Like it went on too long. Like we kept getting excuses from several people that were working with them on our team, their business coach, them, and they should have been let go like 8 months before they were. So I think the biggest advice I have is like, if you get that spidey sense, like listen to it. Listen to your spidey sense.
Well, but I think I think that's such an excellent point to make because I think when people are just starting off and they're really kind of desperate to close a sale, your judgment can be clouded because you really want that sale. You really want that first client. You really just want to hit that milestone of adding another client and getting that paycheck. And
that paycheck is not worth it.
It's not, yeah.
When it comes with things.
Not only is it like not worth it, but you're also going to end up shooting yourself in the foot because that client's probably not going to stick around.
And they're also going to be the client, like a lot of times, what is it? The 80-20 rule where like, 20% of your clients do like 80% of your work or something like that. Like they're always the clients that like they're above production rate. They don't value that you're working above production rate for them. If you were to even ask them for, they don't think that you're worth the money that they're paying you currently, let alone you needing to institute a price increase because of, their out of scope work. Like you end up, you want to close that sale. I got it. You need to make money. I got it. I understand it. I've been there. You will not make money on that client, period. When it comes to putting your time into it, like at the end of the day, you will lose money on those clients.
I think that goes back to the issue of quality versus quantity. Because I think I was always told work smarter, not harder. So I think it's better to have less of higher quality, high paying clients than it is to have a bunch of little shitty clients. And I hate to say shitty, maybe I'll get bleeped out for that, but, it's not fun being kind of held. It's like when you have clients like that, you're kind of like held against your own will. Cause you're like, oh my gosh, I did it to myself. And now
this is all of my doing. I hate personal responsibility.
Well, if it's not the consequences of my own actions.
This is the consequences of my own actions. My God. that is the last 4 months because I love that you said quantity or quality, not quantity, because, that's what we've been known for in, the BBL community is our size, right? Like we've had upwards of 120 clients. We're at 1.5 million. We're not anymore. Because over the last 4 months, I have let a huge chunk of clients go through a combination of, price increases and actually letting them go, which again, that reputation item, people don't like that, by the way, just like as a heads up. If you're like, hey, I don't think that we're a good fit to work together, like as shitty as they treat you, they don't want to be they want to be the ones to fire you. So if like you try to implement your boundary and say, actually, I don't think we're like the best fit to work with you. Ooh, that makes them mad. There was really no good way to do that. So I'm dealing with that. But right now we're back down to about 105, I think. So we've lost a good chunk of clients. There was like about 15 clients. And I think anywhere from about like $15,000 to $20,000 in monthly recurring revenue over the last 6 months. Just go ahead and do a little bit of math there real quick, guys. That's a fuck ton of money. You are going to have to bleep that out, but there's no other way to say that.
Yeah. Well, but I think those who are listening can take that as kind of a learning experience.
This is a warning, okay, guys? Do it up front when you are pre-qualifying your sales leads, because it is so much harder down the road, 6, 12, 18 months later, to let go 15 clients or $20,000 in monthly recurring revenue. It's a lot harder. It's your reputation. It's attrition. It's changing your work schedules. It's potentially lowering people's schedules or, letting subcontractors go that were working on those clients. Like it's so much. And like for people that aren't our size that can't handle that, like that's your business or not. Like could be the difference between you having to fire an employee, right? Like, or 2 or 3 or whatever it might be. And so it's really, really important. Again, thinking about the consequences of your actions, like pre-qualifying the people that come on board with you is one of the most important things that you can do, because you do want them to be in for the long haul. Don't focus on that quick, I need the money right now sale, because they're just going to lead to headaches and heartache, and you're going to end up losing money or being threatened with a lawsuit, which has only happened twice, but that was 2 times too many. And, there's so many things that could come from just take the time and have patience. And if it's meant to be, it will work out and they will see your value. And if they don't, well, then they're not the right client for you.
They're not the good fit for you.
Not a good fit for you.
It's not your high school prom date. It's your husband. Think of it like that.
Yeah, it's your second husband with, no, I'm just kidding. It's the second husband that when you marry into money. Okay. That's the husband that it is.
If anybody's listening and you did marry your high school prom date, kudos to you. However,
we love that journey for you and we'd love to hear about it.
Oh my goodness. Well, we talked about how this was not going to be our longest episode. And of course, Melissa and I can talk for hours without taking a breath. So we're going to wrap this up here. I have so enjoyed hearing about your experience with this, because I knew you would have so much knowledge to give our listeners and so much learning experience. And I really hope that people out there listening take pre-qualifying their sales leads seriously.
Yes. I like to be the hot mess that shows you guys what not to do. I think that it's just really a good fit for me personally.
All right. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, please shoot us an email at success@ilovebookkeeping.com. My name is Hannah Robinson.
And I'm Melissa Honan.
And thank you for listening to the I Love Bookkeeping podcast.
I love bookkeeping. Here's a little shout to all my friends working hard at keeping the books. You want to change your life, you want to grow